Growing up with an incredibly smart mother who was oddly played or doomed by every man in her life is difficult, especially when I felt I became the owner of their red flags. All my life, she gave me flaws that I truthfully do not know till this day if I have. She claimed I was competitive at birth, which meant any board games we played, she was determined I lost, even if it was a group event. She claimed I was spoiled when we would go shopping with her friends and promulgate about how she does not buy me things to make sure I do not become a brat. My life had been a yo yo with her proclaims of my supposed flaws, and they change with time. To her, sometimes I'm cheap and other times I'm lavish. Sometimes I'm too honest and other times I lie too much. Yet my flaws are completely determined by her perception and the situation. They go beyond my grasp. The problem is when she's gone, the question haunts me. Who am I? Growing up with a sleazy father who treated me like scum and a critical mother that treated me like I had no self awareness, sometimes I feel like I will never know who I am beyond their imposed views of me. I heard so much what I needed to change about me, or in my dad's case, how I needed to give in to my inevitable darkness, that despite being an adult, I still feel like that kid in the mall, watching them act like I had everything and needed to learn something. Recently, I had two back to back instances with my mother that shook me to my existential core because, like most women, a phone call to mama would not be worth the ring if you do not walk away feeling like a human F up. As I explained to her daddy recovery, she said I was disappointed with my dad because I felt had he been there for me, my life would be better. The problem was that was not at all how I felt. In fact, the revelation of her perception felt like slight betrayal. Some of our biggest fights were me begging her to get rid of my dad and her believing that, because of shared DNA, he was owed my loyalty, even if I did not have his love. It made me feel like what I actually feel will never supersede what my mother thinks I do. And then it hit me. Have I outgrown my own mother? I outgrew my mother a long time ago, said Nina. We were huffing and puffing because we were both the most unathletic people to enjoy doing sporty things. We loved hiking, even though within 10 inches from our starting point we needed a water break. We loved bowling, even though we got more gutter than pins. Now we were doing those duck boats that they do in city parks, where you have to row with your feet. Yeah, we were struggling. I feel like I'm becoming harsh with her because I officially see she will never be soft with me. I declared after hearing a podcast with Alicia Keys. In it, she had talked about the strange immaturity we can all show at badgering people unwilling to grow for and with us. After my mother's comment, I spent 20 minutes resaying all that I have ever felt and watching her eyes go dead. To her, she knew more than I did about what I felt, and I was not going to get any grace or nod otherwise. A few days later, a new commentary on my being came. You always give up, she casually declared. Till this writing, I have no idea what prompted her to announce I was a quitter, especially when so much of my life she defined me as too much of a go-getter and competitive. Every choice I made in life was to please her, and even though she said I did not have to, she would tell me when she was not. Thus I felt hurt because I was realizing two things. The first is that all I did for her validation did not matter, because what she felt and thought, even if about me, was more important. I had put her first in my emotional and mental well-being, and the statement helped me see I could no longer rely on her and her supposed dose of reality checking to actually achieve them. Especially now that I feel I know even less about what the future holds. I felt the most loss I had ever felt, and now I was feeling rejected and wondering if my mother ever did have a right perspective of me, or ever could. Don't worry. I think that in life, you just make mistakes, you know? F it. It's inevitable, Nina said as our lake duck did its 50th circle in place. I'm really scared to see me via my own eyes. Like, I know she's wrong, but when am I right? You know, what is good about me? God, stop spinning the duck, I yelled suddenly as I was feeling nausea creep within me. I'm trying. Remove your feet from the pedals. Just let it spin for a while, she said, smacking my knees like a grandma would her grandchild's hands as they reached for a hot stove. Does it sink if we stop? I said dizzily. It's not the Titanic, Deandra. I closed my eyes as if that very act would calm my stomach and went back to the original conversation. All my life, I just was told to take in everybody's opinions of me, even though my mother said for it not to matter. I got too many commentaries on who I am for it not to. I remember telling her when I fought with friends, and she would immediately say, "What did you do?" Latina moms are always harsher on the girls, Nina replied. And you're her only kid, so you got all that pent up trauma and judgmental rage she has, and no sisters to split it with. I feel for you, she said, looking up at the sunny sky. If I did not have my sisters to get yelled and chancled up with, I think I would be dead. All my life, my mother made her thoughts the biggest one, and my father made his feelings the biggest ones. And I'm so used to just being the smaller one of those dynamics that I'm terrified of getting me wrong. I feel like I'm almost addicted to their perception of me, even though I know it's painful and wrong, and with my dad 100% evil. Why do you have to know everything about you? Nina replied in frustration. Why can't things remain undiscovered until they are worth discovering? Nina responded as if the sun was making her sweat wisdom, of which she always presented it like Yoda asking questions. So much of my life has been defined by me and the people most important to me, and according to where I went wrong. I feel like my parents made me believe I was uncontrollable and too much, and now I'm so overwhelmed by me that I'm nothing. Nina, I'm nothing, I wept. It was the most sincere channeling of my emotions I had had in my life. I was finally saying what my feelings always alluded to. I felt like I was nothing, even if it was my nothingness was defined by my parents. Moreover, my mother's words were God to me. And even if ridiculous, I prefer them over not having a God. Yet I was tired of being unheard and walking aimless because of them. Okay, let's pedal again. Nothing. Nina laughed. You're dramatic. She told you that? Bish, I just said people comment on me too much and you joined the parade? What about my energy screams, please? I need your feedback on my existence. I commanded as if saying my words firmly would finally ignite a firm response from someone. Now I was really asking, why do people think I'm misguided? That, Nina said instantly, that reaction right there. She was pedaling hard and fast. She had left her credit card at the kiosk, which meant if we were stuck in the kayak dock for more than an hour, she had to pay overtime fees. Plus, the beautiful sun had turned hellish on her skin, and Nina hated how sticky her sweat felt. You react and you let people make you react. You ask them what advice and get upset when they do not say what you want, and they walk away thinking they have permission to speak at you again. If your mom thinks you're lost at the mall, then ask yourself, what did you say or do to make her think you're lost? I said, slumping back. Pedal. Okay, so that episode, first of all, those ducks, I don't know who said that's easy. That was so hard. My thighs still hurt. I don't know who started that rumor that that's just a casual thing to do with family and friends. We almost died. We were spinning and then we were like, maybe we'll float back to land. I mean, I don't even know. It was so bad. But anyway, so it's been a conversation, and I think it's definitely a conversation women have as they enter their 30s or their 40s. Like the older you get, once you start exiting your 20s, especially once your Saturn return is done, like post 27, 28, you really start to become pensive over your relationships. And by then you've had like 20 million toxic ones. You're starting to realize that your family dynamics, like it's not a joke saying that you're traumatized. You might actually be. And you have to heal if you want to be happy, especially because I think psychologically by 35, the behaviors you have are become like, you're basically not going to change. Your behavioral patterns are pretty much set. So your run to actually become a better human being to yourself is really from like 28 to 35. And I'm not saying that you can't change much older. In fact, I admire the people that just take the realms of their life at 68, at 78, because as long as you have breath, you got to work on your happiness. You got to work on your healing. But my mother has always commented on me. And it's been frustrating because lately, they always say you're on the right path of your life when you have absolutely no clue what that path is. And I've been very existential, and part of why I started Daddy Recovery. I've just been, because I don't know what my future holds. I don't know when or where my success is going to come. I've been reanalyzing and at times overanalyzing what led me to this point. What were the patterns and paths that I believe truly work out for me in terms of love and career and health, and failed. And when she said, what I felt about my dad, and it wasn't, she painted it as basically exactly, I said word for word, you think, Deandra, that had he been in your life, you would be more stable. And the problem was, it was because he was in my life that I was unstable. And there were times, I didn't speak to my dad for nearly a decade. And it wasn't the first time I had kind of broken up with him. He always treated me like an ex-wife looking for more alimony. And I hated that. And as I entered my teenage years and started to realize there's something really putrid about that dynamic, I think I broke up with my dad like at least 5 times in high school. And then I went off to college, and college was weird because my father wasn't the most present person to have been as traumatic as he was. He was this floating energy that just came, did a whole financial, mental, emotional ruckus in our lives, and then left, and then came back, and then left. And when I went away for college, it became easier to handle him because it really became a high goodbye relationship. And then the mess of him promising to pay for my master's program, going to the bank, opening an account. I saw him put money in it, and he said, I know you got a partial scholarship, I'll handle the rest. And he had the money. And I literally land abroad, and he closed the account, said that I invented everything. I misheard him, made my mother and me cry. I mean, it was a mess. And that moment is so important because that's when I started to realize my entire life, my father has sabotaged me in every way and on purpose and with schemes. And I just forgave it. And I thought it was normal. And I thought being good was acting like that was okay, even if it wasn't, even if it broke my heart. Just move on, move on, move on. So the reason I mention that is because when I stopped talking to my dad, it stuck because I threatened my mother, I won't speak to you if you make me talk to him again. Because part of why we always reconciled was her. He would call her, he would talk to her, and then she would talk to me. But my father only wanted me in his life because he wanted her. He would write her love letters. He would try to get back with her. He even stalked her for a while. So when I told her, listen, I'm not going to talk to you if you make me talk to him, that's when it stuck. And she blocked him, and she started ignoring him, and he went crazy for a good few years trying to reach to her, never me. And I have an episode about that. But it made me feel like, the reason I mentioned that messiness is that it made me feel like she erased it. And sometimes it's really hard for me and my mother to talk about things because she's very smart, but she's not as wise as me. And that's because wisdom is how we connect our mind with our heart. And my mother is like Aquarius, Virgo, Capricorn, Taurus. Like, she's all the horoscopes that are very self-critical and very mental. And she just, if she doesn't think it, she doesn't think it. It doesn't even reach feelings. And it made me feel like it just hit me that my entire life I've been telling her what I feel. And because she doesn't think I feel that, what I'm telling her is dismissed. And I'm beginning to see that I am very communicative. I'm very clear in what I feel and what I think. I've just been attracting relationships via my daddy issues with people that don't want to hear me, that don't want to listen to me. And putting my mom in that category almost feels blasphemous because no one has been as loyal and as dedicated to me as her. But at the same time, it's kind of like I make this joke. I know my mother would die for me. I just wish she didn't kill me. It felt like that, where it was suddenly God telling me that I didn't feel how I felt and that I never did. And then it shook me because I was so used to always going with what she said I felt. And this time I couldn't because I'm in such an existential place that I almost inherently reject it. Like, no, that's not what I feel. It's not even in this rebellious way. It's just like I'm at a point where I need truth and good. Okay? I need to be honest with myself, and I need only good things to come in. Good men, good fun, good money, good health. So those type of things where it's kind of like that's not at all what I'm feeling. Now even more I can reject it because I have no space for BS or overthinking, especially from me, coming from me. And then a few weeks later, she said I was a quitter and that I quit everything. And that really hurt me because what that did is her first statement of kind of making this perception of what I really felt about my dad that I didn't feel, which is that I wanted him to stay. I wanted him to give. My dad was so clear he would never give me anything. And the reason I pushed him out is that I realized he was taking from me. He was taking my energy, my self-esteem, and he was doing it with purpose, my financial well-being. He was plotting against me. So when she said that, I was like, where were you for the events of my childhood? Could you WhatsApp me your location or something? Anyway, and then she said I was a quitter. And I just, my whole life, my mother has been a yo-yo. When I was a kid, I was the cheapest person alive. She would make jokes about it. And I think I became cheap in some way because she would do this very weird thing of, oh, you're so spoiled. I spoil you so much. Oh my God. And then she would talk to her friends about how spoiled I was. And then she would love to go shopping with her friends. And then if I asked for something, it would be no, because that is how you humble kids. And it's like, no wonder they all got married and had children way before I did. I mean, it just felt like my identity was in the hands of too many people outside of me, and nobody taught me self-discovery. And that's what I'm learning right now. Self-discovery, self-love, self-awareness, self-belief. And I'm totally lost in the process. I really think that's why I started Daddy Recovery. It's almost like a mental health check because I have no idea how to even figure me out, let alone who I am. And when she said I was a quitter, it was so funny that that inner rejection said, nope, that's not it. But what hurt me is that like I've never done anything fully for me. I've always done everything cognizant of my mother's feelings, of what she would think, gone out for jobs that I didn't want or I knew would damage me because I needed money. And my mother wants me to be paid, right? Which makes sense. But like, you know, worn, even my fashion I chose according to my mom. Every diet that I've been on, it's because we were on it. Like she would always put me on diets. And I just got to this moment of like, no, I'm not a quitter. I'm overwhelmed because I have always split myself in two. How to really in three, how to satisfy my mother, how to gain my father's impossible love. And then, in third place, what Deandra wants for Deandra. And I think Nina called me out in a way because what she was trying to say is, you are very reactive. You take in what everybody says about you. get mad that they don't say what you want them to say about you. And they feel like they have permission to say it anyway, whether you like it or not, whether you ask for it or not. You're showing your cards, basically. And you're getting angry that you keep on losing the poker match. If your mother feels lost and feels like she can tell you every single thing she thinks about you, what are you doing to make her feel like you're like that lost kid at a mall? And I don't know if I feel like part of trauma is oversharing. And I did an episode about that on daddyrecovery.com. Part of trauma is oversharing. And I think because I share so much of everything, what I'm doing, what I feel, where I'm going, where I want to go, dreams, undreams, that does trigger people to give me feedback that I don't want. And it's something that I've noticed, especially with Yali, and in terms of relationships. I have always kept who I'm dating so deeply private that they're people my mother has never met. Because in love, that's where I'm really, really kind of, I don't want to hear it. Not in love. And the irony is I still dated toxic. For however private and protective I was still in poor relationships that didn't even deserve that. That level of secrecy and security on my end. And when Nina kind of called me out, it made me, beyond oversharing, I was like, is it a demeanor thing? I've always thought that people try to push me around because I'm very kind, I'm very sweet. I have the tendency to give my trust immediately and instantly if I like you. But I also think, in a way, what she was trying to say is, tell people to go F themselves. Say you don't want the opinion, like learn the power of no, learn the power of rejecting people, not always being the one rejected. And I think that when my mother said, you're a quitter, or that I actually did want my dad, and those were two things that were so not true to me, I was shocked that I was rejecting her. And it made me feel really uncomfortable because I was so raised not to do that. And moreover, I feel like it's being ungrateful. Like I'm being thankless to this person that has always stood by me, even if I question how they were standing, like, never letting me get rid of my dad. So yeah, it was such an interesting take of her part. And it was so simple and basic. Just don't react to these people. Tell them no. Tell them that's not true. Tell them to shut up. Don't even let them in your space. Why are they there? Yeah, I love that. And I'm really grateful for that assessment. And I'm definitely keeping it. So check out daddyrecovery.com. Check out Deandra, my music on all platforms. Check out this podcast on all platforms. And please follow.